Has immigration taken center stage as the key issue in the 2024 U.S. presidential elections? Why is there a sudden increase in illegal immigration at the southern border of the United States? What factors contribute to the U.S.'s inability to tackle this problem? And how might this scenario unfold during an election year? But before we begin, please like the channel, subscribe it, and press the notification bell. The House Committee on Homeland Security, responsible for overseeing the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, took a significant step on Wednesday, January 31st, by approving 2 articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. The charges levied against him center on allegations of neglecting the enforcement of U.S. immigration policies, particularly concerning the southern border that separates the United States and Mexico. The partisan divide was evident in the committee's decision, with all 18 Republican House representatives voting in favor of recommending impeachment charges, while the 15 Democratic House representatives opposed the move. The stage is now set for a potential full House vote on Mayorkas' impeachment, with the process potentially unfolding as early as next week. This development underscores the escalating tensions between Republicans and Democrats on the contentious issue of immigration. The focus of the accusations revolves around Mayorkas' purported failure to uphold and implement immigration policies effectively, particularly in the context of the southern border crisis. As the 2024 presidential elections loom on the horizon, the clash between the 2 major political parties over immigration policies has intensified, adding another layer of complexity to the already polarized political landscape. The potential impeachment of the Homeland Security Secretary not only reflects the deep-seated disagreements within the committee but also signals a broader political struggle that is likely to influence the upcoming electoral landscape. What is unfolding at the southern border of the United States? There has been a notable increase in the influx of migrants entering the U.S. via its border with Mexico in recent years, particularly during the presidency of Joe Biden. According to a report by The Washington Post, the Department of Homeland Security's latest findings reveal that, under the Biden administration, over 2.3 million migrants were released into the country through the southern border by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. This primarily consisted of a substantial number of migrant families and some adult groups. Simultaneously, over 6 million migrants were taken into custody by the Customs and Border Protection during this same period. The month of November 2023 alone witnessed nearly 250,000 illegal crossings along the southern border, with the majority of individuals being released into the country while their claims for protection remained pending. As per a 2023 article from the New York Times, the current estimate indicates approximately 11 million undocumented immigrants residing in the United States, marking a 3-fold increase from the figure recorded in 1990. The surge in migrants has placed significant pressure on resources in cities such as New York, Chicago, and Denver, all of which are under Democratic governance. The Economist noted that Republican governors in southern states have redirected these undocumented migrants to these cities. Consequently, Democratic mayors in these urban centers have continuously sought additional federal assistance to address the challenges of providing shelter and accommodation for the incoming population. Why has there been a notable increase in migration to the United States? Republicans attribute the surge in the number of migrants to President Biden's immigration policies. In his 2020 campaign, Biden pledged to reverse Trump's anti-immigrant stance and adopt a more compassionate approach. According to a report by the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, since taking office, Biden has relaxed the Trump-era measures on migrants, including resuming green card processing, discontinuing the construction of the U.S.-Mexico border wall, expediting the reunification of migrant families, canceling safe third-country agreements, and implementing new parole policies allowing certain migrants to enter legally for humanitarian reasons. Additionally, he abolished the practice of detaining families starting in 2021. While critics argue that Biden's policies have incentivized migration, external factors beyond his control have also played a significant role. The Economist highlighted that an increase in demand for workers in the U.S. labor market is correlated with a rise in the number of illegal immigrants. This was evident during the initial years of the Trump administration, followed by a decline due to the COVID-19 pandemic. When travel became possible again in 2021, pent-up demand resulted in a surge of people across the southern border, the report noted. Furthermore, the global surge in migration has contributed to the recent uptick in illegal border crossings. The economic crisis in Venezuela has prompted millions to leave, while gang violence in Central America has forced many to flee. The Americas are now receiving tens of thousands of individuals from countries such as Russia, 43,000 in the year to September 2023, India, 42,000, and China, 24,000, all attempting to cross the border. As reported by The Economist, why has the United States struggled to address the issue of illegal immigration? However, the mentioned factors are not the core of the challenge posed by widespread undocumented migration into the U.S. It is a long-standing problem, primarily sustained by three key factors: stringent immigration laws, the failure of the U.S. Congress to overhaul these laws, and an overwhelmed immigration court system. As per another report from the New York Times, legal immigration to the U.S. is nearly unattainable for the majority of individuals. David J. Beer, the Associate Director of Immigration Studies at the Cato Institute, estimated that only about 3% of those attempting permanent relocation to the U.S. could achieve it legally. The report emphasized that legal immigration resembles winning a lottery rather than waiting in line, making it such a rare occurrence that expecting it in individual cases is deemed irrational. Consequently, many prospective immigrants opt for unlawful entry into the U.S. Another significant factor contributing to the United States' inability to address illegal immigration is the overwhelming burden on its immigration courts. A recent report by The Economist revealed that, as of November 2023, there are over 3 million cases pending in these courts, with an average wait time of more than 4 years for an initial asylum hearing. Experts argue that to alleviate this backlog, the U.S. requires double the number of current judges and additional resources like interpreters, legal assistants, and law clerks. The New York Times report suggested that enhancing the system's efficiency would reduce the incentive to submit frivolous asylum claims in order to reside legally in the United States while waiting for an application to be denied. Crucially, the U.S. Congress has been unable to pass any legislation to fix the broken immigration system for years. The last comprehensive legislation addressing labor demands, the legal status of undocumented immigrants, border security, and interior enforcement was enacted under President Ronald Reagan in 1986. Congress's failure to enact significant immigration reform stems largely from political gridlock between Republicans and Democrats. The ongoing negotiations in the Senate regarding a border deal, aimed at addressing the influx of migrants through the southern border, have faced prolonged challenges due to the mistrust and disagreement between the two parties. The Economist report pointed out that both Republicans and Democrats harbor suspicions about each other's motives, hindering progress. Republicans express reluctance to allocate more funds to an administration they question on immigration law enforcement, while Democrats view certain Republican demands, such as indefinite detention of arriving families, as setting up negotiations for failure. How might immigration impact the landscape of the 2024 presidential race? As President Biden grapples with the escalating number of migrants entering the U.S. through its southern border, Republicans have intensified their criticism of his handling of the situation. Recent surveys indicate that immigration is swiftly becoming the predominant concern in the 2024 polls. This forms the core rationale behind the GOP's efforts to impeach Mayorkas, coupled with their refusal to approve emergency funding for Ukraine unless the border deal is ratified. Compounding Biden's challenges, The Washington Post reports that his management of immigration and the southern border receives his lowest approval ratings. Strikingly, Biden faces criticism from both ends of the political spectrum. While the right accuses him of insufficient action to stem the migrant surge, the left feels disillusioned, viewing Biden's recent adoption of some of Trump's anti-immigration policies, including his willingness to consider closing the U.S.-Mexico border if a border deal is reached. In contrast, Donald Trump, poised to secure the Republican presidential nomination, enjoys a considerably more favorable stance than Biden on immigration. Polls reveal that more than twice as many individuals trust Trump over Biden on this issue. As a result, many experts contend that immigration could serve as a pivotal factor that propels Trump back to the White House.